Hi guys, it's Clarice and welcome to another video tutorial with me. In today's video we are going to be doing poppies. I have done I think I do have one video out there with poppies already, but I am going to do a redo in a style similar to this right here. That's pretty, right? So, supplies. For supplies I'm going to be using my number 4 silver black velvet. And then I am also going to be using this Filbert brush that I have. It is a no-name brand. It's a pretty thick brush. It is a size 4. Okay, and just to kind of give you a comparison to my other Filbert, I have a number 6 Princeton. Here's what that looks like. Okay, so I think you guys can see it. Maybe better on the white. There you go. And then for colors, I am going to be using my White Nights set of 36 and also combining it with some pretty colors by KMS. And I have water ready, and for my paper I am using my Canson watercolor paper. I do love the combinations of the pinks, reds, oranges kind of going together, so we're going to stick with that. I want to quickly remind you guys that if you are new to my channel, I put out a lot of watercolor videos of a floral nature, so please feel free to check the rest of the channel out. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so you never miss another video by me. Alright, flipping the page to start the poppies. So, as I mentioned, I like my pinks, I like my oranges, so we're going to be using a combination of the Carmine, Ruby, some of the Titan Red, and Golden Deep, or you can even swap it for Golden if you must. Then for my greens, I like the olive green combined with a tiny bit of the either chromium. Yeah, let's use chromium, not green. And then for my KMS colors, I have got some pretty pinks. So I really like Miami, and I have Christmas Carol. So I'm going to keep these two on the side as well. And then I have the sage green. I'll just keep it there in case I want to add some extra stuff around there. All right, so we're going to start mixing some paints. So I'm going to use my palette from the 36 set right there. It detaches really easily, which I love about it, so it's not on my sheet. And I'm going to use the number 4 Filbert that I have and get some of my Carmine. You guys know I love my Carmine. Okay, so I'm getting some nice Carmine on here. Now this brush is very like it holds a lot of water. It almost kind of reminds me of my mop brush, but in Filbert form. So I want to make sure that I have my paper towel handy on the side here. You can see it right off the video. And now that I have some color on here, I'm going to get some color directly from my cake there. All right, so now that we're zoomed in, we're going to start. And I'm going to start off by doing a poppy that's kind of facing upward right over here, and I'm going to press down and trail off, press down, trail off again, and this is what gives me a nice poppy petal shape when I do these little strokes but kind of overlapping one another. I'm going to get some color directly from my cake, and using the side of my brush I'm adding some little linear lines into this poppy petal that I've created. So I've got one, I'm going to create another petal using some dark color again. You can see the color kind of pooling on my palette, but this time I'm going to make sure that this next petal is going to be opposite, leave some space in between. And we're doing the same exercise, pushing all the color down to the center, giving it a nice kind of round shape at the top with a little bit of frill almost. Now I'm going to dab off the color from my brush, taking some water mainly on my brush. I'm going to go ahead and get some color, some paints right here, some strokes right here. And as you can see, these strokes are so much lighter, and they're kind of pulling in color from the previous 2 petals that we have, right? So I'm going to get some darker color here again and do the exact same thing, adding some texture into our petal just like we did in the first one there. add some in over here as well. You might need to allow it to dry a little bit if it's pooling kind of like that. So just give it some time if you must. I'm going to continue creating another petal right here. And at this point, if you even want to mix in a hint of the red in it, and by red I mean the ruby is what I'm using, you can go ahead and do that. Just give your poppy some interesting effects by adding another hue to it. And then finally, I'm going to use whatever color I have left, and we're creating our last petal. Just like this. So you can see I'm using the full, pretty much length of my filbert to kind of paint those in. So that's perfect. We're going to allow this to dry just a tad bit, and we're going to go in and get some of the yellow, and that's just off to the side here. I'm going to get some yellow using my number 4, and now I'm going to go right here and add just on the inner bit, leaving a little bit of white space between the petals, slightly touching some areas, not all of them. So I get a little bit of flare of color, if you can see that clearly. And then now that we have some yellow, we're going to go in and get just a slight bit of green. And for green, I'm using my olive green. And I'm just going to add that in smack dab in between, in the center of the yellow. So make sure you've left some white space in between the yellow as you've kind of circled it around that inner area. So there you go. So that's pretty much the whole concept for this poppy. Oh, actually, we can just go ahead using the brush number 4 again, and we're getting some of the olive green. And we're going to create a stem. And now this is like a fun part for me because their stems are so nice and swirly. So I'm going to create one. Let's just do, typically it would be nice to have one that way, but because it's facing upward, I think we'll just have to do a boring straight one with a little bit of a squiggle. I love the color combinations for these because it's like bright and fun and so pretty, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and create a couple more of these using some other colors now that we have the technique down, and then we'll switch back to this to add some slight more detail. If you want to, you can leave it as is, or you can always add more detail, and I'll show you how by allowing it to dry a bit and then going in and adding some tinier linear lines in there. So for the next one, let's use the ruby that I've used there. So I'm getting some of the ruby and I'll mix that onto here. It's a nice bright red, like a warm red. And again, I'm using the number 4. And let's create this one happening over on this end here. So I'm just going to move this ever so lightly so I can angle it and you guys can see me paint better. Let's make it just slightly down here. So pressing down, I'm going to create these. I'm going to create the shape of my poppy petal, just like that. Then dipping, actually before I dip, I'm going to get a little bit more color and create the petal on the other side. Make sure you're leaving white space for the center, guys. And now I think I'll get a little bit of the carmine involved. So I've dipped to get some carmine on my brush. And this is a nice blood red poppy. It looks so pretty. Oops. Okay, this can happen. We're gonna fix it after. Accident. We're gonna get some of the color that I have here using the number 4. We're ignoring this for now. And I'm going to create lighter petals here in between. And you see the blend happening. Pretty, right? I'm going to get a little bit more of that lighter red, and I'm going to add another petal here. And I'm allowing the color to kind of blend in nicely between the petals, that is. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I will get a little bit of the carmine, and I'm going to go ahead and create some lines in here. While this is still a little bit damp, I want to create some textured strokes. And what I'm doing is simply pushing the color that's kind of pooling in these areas downward, and it's adding some nice texture to our poppies. You see that? And you can only get these effects while it is still mildly damp and the water is not pooling. Okay? So that is very, very key to get poppies like this. Now this is the happy accident that happened here. We're going to get to this sooner or later. Probably I'll have to maybe make a poppy kind of happening here facing upward. You know what? Let's do it right now. I'm going to use the same brush, but we're going to use the orange this time, okay? So we've got some color on there. Hopefully the orange doesn't mix it up too much. So I'm going to use the golden, and I'm mixing some of the golden on here. But for the dark bits of this, we're going to be using the Titan red. So Titan red, I'm mixing it in with a little bit of the golden because it's a nice orange color. And now we're going to do the same thing that we did up there here. So pressing down my first petal. Then we're going to do the next one. How many of y'all actually, like, your breath caught when you heard my brush go tumble, tumble, tumble? Accidents happen. It's perfectly normal. It is fine. And as long as you can find creative ways to fix it, you're good. So I've taken a little bit of the ruby and I've created this next petal here. And then I think finally what I'm going to do is create this petal right here using a little bit more of the ruby, and I'll get some more from the cake itself. I just want to add some strokes in here. Give it some nice pop of color. And then finally our final one here. Perfect. I'm just going to make sure this side is nicely dark too. Fabulous. And then I'm just going to do these little lines that I had done up there using the side of my brush. Turning my brush to the side, I'm just kind of drawing these lines in. Okay, so that's perfect. Now what I'm going to do is, because I don't want the color to all look like one big mishmash, I'm actually going to take my number 4 and making sure all the water color is off. I'm going to go ahead and take off some color. And then using my paper towel, I'm just kind of dabbing. So here's another technique to kind of create those lines that you see in the poppy petals. And cause some differentiation between the petals so they don't look like one big mishmash, right? So your techniques are, you can either take take a plain brush and wipe off some of the color, or you can take another color and add in a nice pretty blend like we kind of did that up there. Or the third one was, what was the third one? I'm busy trying to create this poppy here that I'm forgetting. The third one, so adding another hue, wiping off some color, or adding thinner strokes once it's slightly dry of the same color. All right, so there we go. We've got 3 poppies, beautifully bright and nice. And now we are going to add some of the centers, just like I said previously. I want to try something different for these centers here. I think I'm going to try adding a little bit of for this one actually. Just want to see what it looks like if I add a little bit of this metallic champagne color that I have. And I'm just going to add a couple of strokes right there. Really got to activate the metallic. I wish I had more white space for this poppy here. It's a very pretty metallic color and it's kind of blending into the poppy, so I'll have to probably wait for this to dry just a tad bit more before doing anything. All right, so I think this is good. Before we revert back to the top, I just want to do one quick thing, and that is to get some carmine. And I'm going to add a couple of these carmine strokes in some of the petals. So I'm getting the color directly from my palette, and I'm just adding these strokes over what I have on here. I'm liking the combination. It's quite pretty. And I'm adding detail. So this is going to be the absolute last step. This is the optional step I mentioned for doing up there. I'm doing it for this one just to give it a nice variation, and we can move on to doing it at the top as well. Make your poppies look nice and popping, right? Perfect. I like the texture. I'm gonna have to do a slightly more of a zoom so you can see better, but yeah, that's the idea. So yellow for this one right here again. And then we're doing green in the center. The olive green, that is. There we go. Do green in this one too. Doesn't stand out as much because the champagne blends in really well with the orangey pink hues that we have, but that's okay. Yes, we got to do the stem now. And for this stem, I think it would be nice to do something that comes out this way. And I'm just emphasizing the stem a bit here. Cute. Okay, so now we've got this cute little design. If you wanna add like a, what's it called? Like one of the buds, which also adds some nice movement to your painting. Let's do that. So I'm gonna add one bud happening that way. All right, so using the same number 4 and the olive green, we're just gonna go ahead and start from the top and then go downward. Okay, so hopefully my hand doesn't move too much. Need a steady hand for this. Although, mind you, the way this happens is quite, it's not a smooth line. If you really observe some of the poppy stems, some of them have a little bit of a wave in it. So if you've got a little handshake, why not? That might actually help. And just kind of making sure that it is thick enough. So going over it just ever so lightly, slightly. And then finally we do our little bud at the top. So taking the same color, we are going to go ahead and create this nice little oval shape here. Now you can start off small, and then if you feel like it's too small, you can always make it bigger. You don't want to have too big a pod, and then afterwards it's harder to make it smaller after the fact. But if you start small and you feel like it can be bigger, why not? So there we go, we've got it. I think that's a good enough size. If you want to add a little bit of a hint of the oxide green, now is the time to kind of just add a stroke here and there while this is damp. Make it stand out nicely, give it that nice two-tone effect that I always tell you guys about in all my videos. And there we go. Okay, so we're done this. I'm going to go ahead and create some more of these babies all around and make that a time lapse, because now you guys, I've done 3 with you guys and you know exactly how to do them. The little linear lines I was talking about, you can get crafty and creative by adding some metallic colors. If you've got metallic reds or pinks, I think that would be really nice. Or if you just want to go ahead and use the exact same color, using the number 4 or number 2, you can just get the darker version of that color and just using the tip of your brush, just kind of add in some lines here and there and just make them, these kind of remind me of a little bit of the Cosmo video that I had done, because they also have lines in the petals, and I remember saying kind of go along with the shape of the flower to kind of really, shape of the petal to kind of really make it pop, or flow rather, not pop. So I'm not just doing straight lines, but I'm kind of following the shape of the petal. Right? So just like that, that's the idea. All right, so I'll be right back. And we're back. So I ended up doing these 2 little guys using my pinks by KMS, the Miami and the Christmas Carol, and then I used the sage to kind of give it a nice matte finish so it doesn't compete with the bright pinks and the shimmery pinks, because they are a shimmer. And this is the end result. I even did a splatter using the leftover sage just in certain areas here and there, and it is a pretty picture. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Please tag me on social media, Instagram, if you happen to post. If you're not comfortable posting, feel free to send it to me via direct message or email, and I am happy to see your work. It is so encouraging to me, guys. Thank you so much, and if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, consider subscribing, and please share this in your social media circles. Thanks, guys, and see you next week. Bye.